Conan, did you watch Raw?
Yep.
Just real quick before we go over it, what'd you think of the show?
Now you'll have to go over it again for me to remember exactly because I don't.
Yeah, because
I
it
don't.
wasn't
Yeah.
that memorable. It's like they're in the middle of doing these qualifying matches where
Yeah.
you know who's going over, and so it's like it takes up. I kind of lose a little bit of interest when they have content like that on the show. All right, so I'm sorry, I lost my place here. So, okay, so Raw starts with Edge coming to the ring. He's with Beth Phoenix. They're cutting a promo. Bro, why? Edge was blown up cutting this promo. Did you notice that?
No.
He was like, like breathing really like heavy and stuff. Like I don't know if there was like intentionally heavy breathing to show emotion. I was like, what? Like why on earth are you blown up right now? Because that's like maybe he's trying to convey that he's really fired up talking about these guys or whatever. But it was a very weird. Sounded like he was having like a heart attack or something. So Edge said it was so damn good to be back. He's a king of the comeback at this point. He said Judgment Day is his fault. He said his idea was to basically elevate talent. He thought he truly deserved it. He said he thought it actually worked for a while, and they were all better off now than they were a year ago. And it's true. You know, that he wanted to elevate them, and they got elevated. And he spoke about their accomplishments and said he talked about Finn, Damien, and Rhea. And he said, "Oh, and Dom's there too." That got a good pop. So, the crowd gave this is you still got it chant. He says, "I never lost it." I said Judgment Day made things worse because he's a cruel, vindictive sick will sink to any level to get his pound of flesh. And Phoenix said she would cut to the chase. She started to say that she and Edge were there to finish the war with Judgment Day, but she was interrupted. Finn, Damien, and Dominic came out, and Balor said it's time for Edge and Phoenix to quit. Dom spoke about having done hard times since they were last around, and Dom threatened to do something to them that he learned on the inside. He pointed out that his father never made it to the Rumble match, and Priest screwed up and started to talk about entering the Money in the Bank match, but he blamed Edge and Phoenix for making him so flustered and he corrected himself. Tom said Ripley was busy promoting WrestleMania. Edge told him to shut up and then spoke about his disappointment with Balor and Priest had become. Edge spoke about taking care of them quicker than Dom dropped his drawers in the clink. That was a good line. Ed said he can't wait until Ray snaps Dom's neck and sticks his teeth down his throat. Phoenix questioned whether Ripley was real on a promotional tour, whether she scared her off, and Phoenix said that since Ripley wasn't at Raw, she was challenging Ripley and Balor to face him in a tag team match at Elimination Chamber. Dom accepted on behalf of Ripley, and then Balor said they may not make it that far, and the Judgment Day climbed to the apron. Edge was outnumbered by Balor and Priest, but Angelo Dawkins ran out and helped Edge by clearing Priest in the ring, and basically they cleared everybody out, and next was a match between Dawkins and Priest. What did you think of this interview segment?
A little bit too long, the promo, the Edge and Phoenix, but people were into it. You know, Dominic was funny as usual, and, you know, every week gets better and more confident. I love the way Ford, you know, rolled up on Dominic to scare him. That was funny, that little dance he did. I like the pounce that Dawkins used to put Priest over the announcer table. What else did I like? And bro, I think this is a chance for WWE. I think they're going to separate him and Montez, and this was a good chance to see them as single stars. And even though we know that Ford's going to be the breakout star, Dawkins going to do all right. He's got chemistry. He can go. The people are into him. He works the crowd. Like he had this was a good match.
Yeah, and Priest went over. Obviously, there was really no question. That's the thing. Is like I don't get why we need 11 minutes of TV time for a match that, like, we know 6-7 minutes in, we know what the finish is going to be here. Just go home, you know, do some more backstage segments and stuff. I don't know. So they showed Austin Theory driving a sports car and make him look like a star. So backstage, Pierce was shown. So I don't know why they. So what did you see? Have you seen these vignettes that the Maximum Male Models was doing on YouTube? Okay, those have not been on the show. They should have been on the show because they remind me of. They were very entertaining, like the way Breezango was doing the wee woo wee woo. You know, they were funny and like they were entertaining and stuff and thing. But like nobody's. Unless you've watched the YouTube, nobody's really seen this. So Adam Pearce was signing these guys to a Raw contract, and this would have been more entertaining segment if they had their characters developed on the show, which they hadn't been doing. But then Chelsea Green is doing I'm the big star. Mentioned she had Belgian chocolate instead of Swiss chocolate, whatever. So I was like, I don't know. I'm not buying the Chelsea Green build right now. Dexter Lumis versus Baron Corbin did not make it to YouTube. And Dexter Lumis beat Baron Corbin, who's on a losing streak now again. but we're going to find out what happens here with him. So Becky Lynch was interviewed by Byron Saxton, and Lynch played to the crowd and noted her issues with Bayley started in the same city, and she recalled meeting Bayley in the weight room at the Performance Center. She spoke about becoming the man of the industry and said Bayley didn't like that, so she attacked her with a chair, separated her shoulder, and brought her family into things. Lynch told Bayley not to talk about her family. Lynch said she had one hand she has yet to play, but she's thinking that tonight might be the night. And the cage was shown hanging over the ring while they hyped the match. Decent promo. Becky's a good talker, but she's like, she. Like, that's the thing, bro. When the WWE does interviews, they get more mileage out of them. Like, there's more oomph in what they say, So, I'm just gonna go fast through this next second because this was this is a kind of an awkward out. Brock Lesnar was cutting a promo, came to the ring. He's cutting a promo on Lashley. Lashley climbed out. This was funny. He said he can't stop thinking about Lashley. He said he thinks about Lashley when he goes fishing. He thinks about Lashley when he has steak dinner. And Lesnar said he thinks about Lashley when he crawls into bed with his wife because about 4 or 5 hours later, all I can think about was Lashley. Lesnar said with a smile. That was actually a funny line, the way he got out of that. He said if Lashley had balls, he'd come out and sign the contract. If Lashley does have balls, and he came out dressed in a suit. And Lashley recalled beating Lesnar in the first match, and Lashley said Lesnar beat him in the second, but he left him laying. And Lashley also pointed out he had no problem throwing Lashley over the top rope at the Royal Rumble. And Lashley said this should be done on his terms. He said he was going to let his agent, lawyer, and manager look at it and take it into consideration. As he was walking away, Brock grabbed him and gave him an F5, and the crowd chanted one more time and he gave him another one. And Lashley kind of looked kind of stupid there, getting F5'd, I thought. I don't know. What did you think of this?
I'm not a big fan of Brock Lesnar's promos. He never really says anything good. But he's so over that people like his promos. He was trying to get the Bobby Who over, which did not get over.
Right.
And
this was not a bad promo, though, the way he's doing it.
That was all
every
right.
time I think about Bobby Lashley,
that was the only good line.
Right, yeah.
And again, he dropped Bobby Lashley on his shoulder. So I don't know if Bobby Lashley lands on his shoulder on purpose because maybe he has bad knees. But this is the second time I see him land on his shoulder.
Candice LeRae was shown standing backstage, and Johnny Gargano spoke to what Dexter Lumis stood by. Nikki Cross was shown watching the background. Gargano showed LeRae a photo that Lumis had drawn to wish her good luck. And the photo had Cross watching Gargano, LeRae, their baby, and their dog from behind. And LeRae spotted Cross and called to her, but Cross laughed and then ran away while LeRae acted confused. This is a corny backstage segment, actually. Then they go to a four-way for a spot in the women's elimination chamber match. Piper Niven versus Candice LeRae versus Mitchell versus Carmella, and the right person went over Carmella, whose work is actually not that bad these days, and she looks phenomenal still. Any comment on this? 9 minutes. Did the right girl go over?
To me, yeah. A lot of people like, Lizzo Niven, nothing. But I'm not into Mia Yim, Michigan, or whatever. I'm not into Candice LeRae. I am into Carmella. I think she looks good, cuts a good promo, is a good worker.
So that backstage, Baron Corbin basically got fired by JBL, and he cut promos on him and said his Hall of Fame career took a credibility because of his association with them. And then Corbin said he would do better. And boy, JBL goes, you can't polish a turd.
Bro, he tore into him.
He did. This was a good pro, and it kind of got sympathy on Corbin, like, because now he's going to be down and out again and broke, which I think would be funny. But that was good content that they did with him last time. Maybe they're going back down that road again.
But remember the idea I told you last week? I think Corbin should attack JBL for some heat and go on his own.
Well, we do the thing of like they did a setup for a match next week in the back after this. LeRae was walking backstage when Niven shoved her into some production crates and complained about not winning the match. Then Mitchell showed up to defend LeRae, and Niven told her that she won't be so forgiving if either of them stand in her way of winning the Raw Women's Championship. So I'm sure they're going to have a match next week.
Yeah.
The Cedric Alexander, Shelton Benjamin against the Alpha Academy in only 5 minutes, but Cedric and Shelton went over. Bro, the Alpha Academy hadn't had a win in a while, and they've actually been pretty entertaining and been doing good work.
They're super entertaining, and they lose to everybody.
They lose to everybody. They need to get a little push here because they've been doing some good work and kind of deserve it a little bit.
I think they wanted to find something for MVP to do since he's not with Lashley and did a good promo, so they put these two together. But they're not anybody that I see as top tier tag team. All
right, yeah. The Miz was interviewed by Kathy Kelly outside Pierce's office. He complained about a soup being ruined by Boogs. Then Boogs emerged from Pierce's office, and Miz wondered how he got a point before he did. Then Pierce came out and heard Miz badmouthing him and claiming he would have won last week had he been dressed for the match. Then he booked a rematch for next week. So whatever. So it's Asuka versus Chelsea Green, and I mean they brought Green and she got jobbed out like quick in the Rumble, and then she just jobbed out here in like 2.5 minutes. So I don't know.
I think
what
she
doing.
lost last week too.
Yeah, they're not doing nothing. Well, this is maybe they're going to give her some good heel heat, like she's a big diva and stuff, and have her go.
Yeah, she's supposed to be doing like a Karen. Gimmick,
oh, is that what she is?
She complains in. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I get it. That makes a little more sense now. Actually makes it a little bit more entertaining, you know. So Cody comes out.
I think the premise is very whack. That she doesn't have Belgian chocolate. That's very whack to me. Oh, I know the difference. She goes, I know that in that promo that I know the difference between Belgian and Swiss chocolate. You know, by the way, Belgian chocolate. Oh, really? That's a source of contention here.
I missed all that. I missed that segment because it wasn't on Hulu. Because afterwards, Bianca came out and cut a promo. I guess I don't know. Cody was introduced. He comes out. He's, what do you want to talk about? He said, you want to talk about the Baby's face of WrestleMania. The fans booed the mention of Reigns. The Sammy chant started. Then Cody said, the fans read his mind. He played up the possibility he would challenge Zayn for the title at WrestleMania. And Cody said he respects anyone avenging injustice and respects his friend Sami Zayn. And Cody said, may the best man win. And Paul Heyman comes out. And basically Heyman comes out and him and Paul have a back and forth. And Cody told a story. He said his father's brother, a nickname for Heyman. If you'll indulge me, I'm going to call you Mr. Heyman. It's because I have an unparalleled respect for you, and I think you know why. He said Cody recalled Heyman calling his father and telling him the ECW's in town. Cody recalled Heyman telling Dusty that Steve Corino would tuckle a smack about him. They do an angle, and that basically Dusty got over huge in ECW was the story. Okay. Then the crowd chanted, "Thank you, Paul," and Paul got kind of emotional, but he was acting, which was Paul's a great actor.
Phenomenal.
Actually, if you go to get you can go on the thing called the WWE playlist, right, on the YouTube channel, and on the playlist they have a recap of like all the stuff that was involved in the Bloodline angle with Sami Zayn. One of the best things, and this is why I like pro wrestling so much, is when there's been spots in that where Sami has said something or Jey Uso. Paul and Jimmy Uso have great facial expressions. Like they're like Paul's has a great look of shock, like on his face, like you know, like he's surprised like a lot. And Jimmy always has like, oh no, what did my brother just say? And like he's all just like embarrassed.
And let me tell you why that's so important, because most wrestlers, they just stay stoic until it's their time to talk. Or if they're not talking, they just stay stoic. It's like, why aren't you reacting? And that's great. Yeah.
So Paul was like holding tears back here, but this was excellent acting. Okay. But basically Heyman said that, he talked about his dad and like said, his dad trained all these guys down there, and, his dad trained Roman too. And he said, I want to tell you something. He goes, Roman, your dad confided in me that Roman was the son that he never had. And Cody
that he wished he had.
They wish he had. Right. And this got Cody pretty upset. He said he said that Heyman won't pay for it. This boy Roman will at WrestleMania when he takes those titles personally. And Cody shoved his mic into Heyman's chest and then left the ring. And Heyman's so great. Heyman sold his chest. Like had the mic shoved it, like hurt him.
And even another little thing that he did is when Cody reaches for the handshake, he looks like terrified, and then Cody grabs his hand, and he's holding the mic way, but you can still hear Paul go, "You're hurting me," like squeezing his hand or whatever. Yeah,
right. I don't know why this needed 10 minutes. Montez Ford defeated Elias in the men's qualifying match, but after the match. Theory was out doing commentary. He stood up on the ring on the broadcast table to help the championship, and Seth showed up and tripped Theory, who fell to the floor. And Rollins performed a stomp on Theory to dance to his entrance. It's actually a good little spot for Seth. He didn't do much in the show, but he did that, and he got over on Theory. So, any comments on any of these segments, Conan, or just kind of like whatever?
Yeah, I mean, Elias, poor guy, was hot as hell, is cold as now. Nobody cares about him.
Right.
Montez, incredible athleticism as always, and charisma, incredible frog splash. But yeah.
All right. So I did not get to see the cage match. But let me give the finish here. Bayley climbed to the top of the cage. Lynch followed her, and both women ended up seated on the top of the cage. And Lynch caught Bayley with a version of the disarmor, whatever that is, on top of the cage, and Bayley fell to the mat. Then Io Sky climbed up and knocked Lynch back inside the cage, and Kai handed a crutch to Bayley, who jabbed Lynch with it. Then Lita, music played, and she made her entrance. And Lita ran out and pulled Sky off the side of the cage. And Lita pulled Kai's other crutch away from her and hit Sky with it. Then Lita put Sky down with a twist of fate, and Bayley tried to leave through the door, but Lita slammed it on her head, and Lynch performed the manhandle slam on Bayley, then pinned her. After the match, Lita entered the ring and hugged Lynch, and they played to the crowd while a graphic listed the people for Raw Talk. So I'm assuming that they had Lita come back, and if you don't want to hear the spoiler, here's the spoiler that Billy reported. But Trish Stratus, I guess, is coming back to Raw on Monday, and they're going to be involved in this. And I'm assuming for WrestleMania, maybe to try to give them a rub with the legends, is that Kai and what's her name, Sky, are going to wrestle Lita and Trish Stratus in a tag. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that But I'm not interested in this girl stuff, to be honest with you. What about you, Conan?
Well, this was actually a good match. I watched it.
Well, they're good workers,
Yeah, very good match. And, like Bayley was throwing Lynch into the cage and she wasn't protecting herself. She was going full force, which made it look even better. They did work their ass off. As you know, not a fan of Sky or Kai. I think they overact. They bring nothing. They add nothing, bro. And here again, they added nothing. And Lita, when she came out, got a humongous pop.
Right.
Yeah. So, nostalgia sells. Nostalgia works. I did it not too long ago in AAA, and I knew I was going to get a pop, but I was surprised at how big it was. That's why, when we tell Britt Baker, if they're going to turn her face, she's so overexposed that if she were to go away and then come in and make a save in a match, I guarantee you it would get a huge pop,
Who?
Britt Baker. Remember we were saying,
right?
Remember? No, because the reason I say is look at Lita. Look how long she hasn't been there, and then she came back. She got a massive pop. Britt Baker's over.
Oh, right, yeah.
If she were to go away, right, and then all of a sudden come back in a babyface spot, she'd get over in that moment. You don't have to really turn her little by little. But she's just overexposed to the point where she's kind of stale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so that's been our Raw review.
Enjoy the rest of the show. Boom.